if you're watching this channel, you probably have kept up on politics enough to know there are some really cool things happening in the firearms industry. We have a new presidential administration. We have a new group in leadership at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And there's a whole new thought process, a whole new way of looking at things. Instead of being against the wall, we actually have opportunities to advance our right to keep and bear arms on a federal level. And that's an exciting thing. Now, one of the things that keeps coming up, and I don't know what's going to pass, what isn't going to pass, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but one I keep hearing about a lot is the Hearing Protection Act. Something to intelligently deregulate sound suppressors, like they should be. They shouldn't have been regulated to begin with, and I don't know, we can go into the history of that some other time, but right now they're treated as a machine gun or as a destructive device instead of being a muffler. And it's ridiculous. It goes contrary to everything else we do. I mean, if you drive a dirt bike and you don't put a muffler on it, you're going to get in trouble. If you own a gun and you put a muffler on it without getting special permission and paying a tax and undergoing background checks for a muffler, you're also going to get in trouble. So we've got to kind of get things here in sync. Even in some European nations where firearms ownership is far more restrictive than any place will ever be, a gun muffler is just a muffler. I mean, it's it's nothing. It shouldn't be anything. Anyway, it looks like we have some intelligence working in that direction. And because of that, a lot of new people are getting excited about and learning about sound suppressors that haven't before. And so I wanted to shoot a really quick video to kind of clear up some of the confusion that's out there and maybe help with some of the nomenclature. First, a sound suppressor deadens the sound of a projectile leaving the firearm. It's also called a silencer. It's also called a muffler. It's also called a can. There are all kinds of names you can use for a sound suppressor or a silencer, and people know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know where it started or where it happened, but according to the internet, silencer isn't a proper term. I'm going to tell you it absolutely is a proper term. For as long as I've been dealing with them, it's been a proper and acceptable term. And the oldest one that I've ever owned was either manufactured in 1908 or 1913. I can't recall which one it was, but it was made by the Maxim Silencer Company. So yes, even though it doesn't completely silence or eliminate sound like you were in a vacuum in space, silencer is still an acceptable term. So silencer, sound suppressor, can, gun muffler, whatever. They all do the same thing. And I'm excited about them being deregulated soon, hopefully, like they should be. Can your firearm utilize a sound suppressor? Really easy way to tell. Is the muzzle threaded? Yes, then you can probably use a sound suppressor. If it's not threaded, you can have it threaded, more than likely, if there's enough material in the barrel, which most of the time there is, especially with the heavier barrels, then you can use a sound suppressor. How cool is that? I've read too many times recently that a sound suppressor is no good with full strength ammunition. That it's only good if you have subsonic ammo, and subsonic ammo doesn't have any energy left to transfer because it's going so slow. And I'm happy to tell you, none of those are true. None of them. Matter of fact, you don't have to believe me. Let's do a little demonstration. I know these cameras, they don't have the dynamic range to really pick up how cool a suppressor is, you know, to know what it's doing, but I think these will be obvious enough so that it will. First of all, let's shoot a full boat round, regular old 168 grain hollow point boat tail at a steel plate at 100 yards without the suppressor. See if you can separate the muzzle blast, the noise coming from the gun, and the steel being impacted enough to really be able to distinguish the hit. 100 yards, steel, no suppressor. Could you hear it? Yeah, my ears are ringing, and I had hearing protection. Let's try it with a suppressor. same ammunition. Only this time, we're using a suppressor. The suppressor I'm using today, by the way, is a Gemtech Titanium Quicksand. Really cool can. All right, 100 yards, same ammunition, except a can this time. See how much nicer that was? No hearing protection needed. No ears ringing. And you can hear the steel. Let's go to some further distances where it will be much more noticeable because we're going to have a delay in flight time. We're going to have a longer pause between the time I hit the trigger and it hits the steel, only because of the extra distance. I'll shoot, that was 100, I'll hit a steel silhouette at 200, I'll hit another one at 300. And again, this is full bolt, 168 grain, match ammo, privy. Rugged stuff. Same stuff we just heard without the suppressor that was ear splitting. All right, 200 yards. How cool is that? Now, let's go to 300 yards. We'll have a little bit more flight time. Beautiful thing. So clearly, the use of a sound suppressor, regardless of whether you're using full strength ammunition or not, is extremely beneficial. It makes an enormous difference, and it's a lot more pleasant to shoot. If you have people around, everybody doesn't need to have their ears plugged. You can have normal conversations like we're having right now. This one's kind of one-sided, but I think you get the point. If there's an unsafe condition downrange, you don't need people to blow air horns and whistles and raise flags. All you got to do is say, hey, hold up, there's a deer crossing the range. It's that easy. So using a sound suppressor with normal ammunition is still awesome. But when you do have subsonic ammunition, it's even more awesome. This is some Engel Ballistic Research subsonic 220 grain 308. And this stuff I've been using for a long time. Now, there was a huge difference between unsuppressed and suppressed with supersonic ammo. Listen to the difference between suppressed with supersonic and suppressed with subsonic. Let's go back to 100 yards. How cool is that? Another one? Okay, you talked me into it. Isn't that awesome? I mean, that sounds like a puff of air. I can hear the firing pin drop. There's a little bit of movement, but that's about it. There's no violent recoil or anything. And it still hits. I mean, you can hear there's a little bit longer pause between hitting the trigger and hitting the target, but it's still hitting the target and it's hitting it plenty hard. As far as it not having any power, and if you want to look it up for yourself, 220 grains at 1,000 feet per second. Still got some pretty good muzzle energy there. It makes me extremely happy to say that almost all of the crappy things you heard about sound suppressors aren't true, and all of the awesome ones are. How awesome is that for a change? Yeah, and they're going to get more awesome if we can deregulate these things like they always should have been. You should be able to walk into a manufacturer or your own workshop or a gun shop and leave with a suppressor for your rifle. It's just a muffler. It's really that simple. Let's do our due diligence as citizens and make sure that we facilitate this happening. The opportunity's never been better. I hope you've enjoyed this short day at the range. It's a little bit wintry, still nice and warm. Haven't even had to zip up yet. If you have, please click like, share us with your friends in your vast social media universe. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't already. And until next time, have fun and be safe. And protect your hearing.